So a lot of people have been requesting that the SolidDNA framework can add command groups and tabs and menu items. So I'm going to combine that with doing a bit of file exporting to PDFs, DXFs, step files, things like that. So as it's been a while since we've done a SolidDNA video, I've started with a very blank one. So clone the AngelSix SolidDNA from GitHub. The link will be in the description. Add that to your project. Make another class library. Give it whatever name you like. I've just called it SolidDNA.exporting. Right click properties, assembly info, and make sure it's convisible. Then I've added a new file just called SolidDNA integration. In the references, I've added references to all the SolidWorks interop files, which again can be found in the GitHub repo in the references folder. So you just add all these. And then once you've added those, check them all and make sure that you change the embed interop type to false, which by default is true. And then in the file you create, it's really easy. Make a new class, call it whatever you like. Inherit from add-in integration, which is a SolidDNA thing. And then you simply do these two functions, override them. You don't need to do anything by default, so that then becomes now a SolidWorks add-in. And then create another class and override solid plugin, and this is a SolidDNA plugin. Again, then you can set your add-ins title and description that appears in SolidWorks here. So I'll just give it a name, SolidDNA exporting, and an example of exporting items. And then we've overridden the connected to and disconnected from SolidWorks. And then to check that works, you can run the add-in installer tool, which is something I made and showed off in the last few videos. Just makes it simple to install your add-in. So first make sure the project builds, which it does. And then in this tool, just browse to the location and select the name of the solution, which is SolidDNA exporting, and select the DLL, and then click install. Add-in was installed, and that's it. So now if you right click on the project, properties, I think it's debug, and then you can select start external program and just browse to your SolidWorks exe and program files. And now you can just click the grey line here to put a breakpoint on the start of connected to SolidWorks and press F5. Now this will spin up SolidWorks. It should load your add-in because we've just installed it, so you should see it pop up here in a second. There we go. And then you can see we've hit this breakpoint. So we now know we're loaded into SolidWorks. We've already got an add-in now in SolidWorks, which was, seconds work. So we go to Tools, Add-ins, and scroll down. You can see SolidDNA exporting, the path where it is, and the title and description we gave. So it does nothing at the minute, but you've seen that we've now got an add-in into SolidWorks that easy. So we want to go in. We'll just dump it inside this connected to SolidWorks for now. And again, I've made this really simple. So making command managers and command groups and tabs and boxes and items and callbacks is actually quite a complicated, well, not necessarily complicated, but long-winded and messy job. So if you go into the SolidDNA source code, you'll see all these files that have been involved in just making a command group, and the substantial amounts of code in each file. So that all boils down to what you need to do, which is nice and simple now. So a command group is the big buttons that you see in SolidWorks when you open a part, and you can click extrusion or new sketch, or all the tabs at the top, that big area, that's a command tab. You can also have menu items and toolbars. They're all part of the command manager, if you will, the command group. So by default, SolidDNA will create the menu, the toolbar, and the command tabs. It basically creates everything by default, and then you can toggle those on and off. So we just make a new thing, and we'll make it we'll just call it part group. You don't need to actually save the variable, but it gets returned. DNA.application.commandmanager.create commands. It's asking for a title, so that's title of the menu and title of the tab. So we'll call this export part. Then want some items, we'll do that in a second. Icons list path, I haven't finished making a tool yet. I'm making a tool that generates these icon list PNGs for you from icons. So for now we're just going to roll without the icons. I'll do an update to this source code and do a comment on the forum when that's ready. So for now let's just ignore the icon path. Tooltip, exports parts in other formats. Hint, we'll just call same as a title for now, export part. Position, you can see you got the description. Basically 0 adds it to the beginning of all the tabs, so that'd go like before the extrusion, the feature tab. By default it's -1, so it goes at the end. We'll leave it as that, and ignore previous versions if you want to save it in the registry. So again, we'll leave that as default. So that's all we need to do to create the entire menu system. So now we've just got to create the items here. So for that we need to do a new list of command items. We'll do a new array, and we'll just right, thinks it's an integer. New array there, and then we'll create a new command manager item. And there we go. So now we've got a new item. This is going to be effectively like a menu in the tool. So if you went to tools in SolidWorks, it would be one of these menus. Well, the menu would actually be export part, the group itself, and then the inner item that you click like this will be these items. The toolbar to be a button like this, so to be one of these buttons, and then the command tab, it'll obviously be the big tab. So you'll see you can create a item. You've got things like name, so we'll do this as DXF because we want to export as DXF. We can set the tooltip. Again, we'll do a tooltip of DXF. You can set the hint, and we'll set that as export part as DXF. And then you've got the option I was mentioning to, by default it's shown everywhere, and you can toggle whether it's shown in the command tab for if it's a part, a drawing or assembly. So by default they're true, so we want to hide this if it's a drawing or an assembly. So visible for drawings is false, visible for assemblies is false, so it's hidden for those. And then we just want to run something when we get clicked, so that's now as simple as making a lambda function. So now if we put a breakpoint here, that's all we should have to do now to get a new command tab, a menu item and a toolbar with this information, and then when you click it we can do something. So just press F5 and let's run and see if this works. So now if we go to File, and we'll open this sheet part I've made, and there you can see export part and DXF. If you right click up on the top part here, you should see that you'll have export part there. So this is your toolbar that you can drag around and have anywhere. And you should also see in the tools menu you've got export part and DXF as well. So you've now got 3 places to access that command, and when we click that we should, there we go, hit this on click. So it's that simple. Obviously, like I say, it's a lot more difficult in SolidWorks natively, but that's the point of the SolidDNA. So we've got an export as DXF. We'll do an export as step as well. I'll just do a few examples because I think you get the gist of it almost straight away. So we'll just copy and paste that, change this all to step, and then when we click we'll do something which we haven't done yet. We will then copy the whole part group, so part commands, copy this entire thing. We'll do one for assemblies, and again you could actually keep them all in the same one, simply add all the commands to one group and change this visibility property. It makes no real difference, but I'll separate them like this for keeping them organized. Change this to assembly, and then in the assembly we'll just do, say, a step for now. DXF I don't think is supported in assemblies, so I'll just leave the step. We'll change this to visible for parts as false, so it's only visible for assemblies. Export assembly in other formats, export assembly. So now we should have a menu for when you go into an assembly as well. So let's just run that and find out. So we open a part, we should see the part menu, which we do. We also see the step that we added. We open an assembly, so just close that down. Open up this little motor assembly I've made. And you can see we've got an export assembly there. And we've also got the two menus, which you'll notice are always visible. So again, you can toggle that in DNA, but we'll just leave them there for now. So finally we'll do one for drawings. So we'll just copy and paste that again. Export drawing. And then for drawing we'll do a PDF, because that uses export data, so you'll get to see how that's done. So there we go, that'll be, we won't bother running that, we know that's going to work. So we've got the three tabs now. So now let's create a new file. So just do add, and we'll call it file exporting. I'll just make it a static class. And we want to make some functions ready, so we want to do a export part as DXF. We want to do a export drawing as PXF, I guess, as PDF rather. And then step can be both, I believe. I'm thinking it can. So we want export model as step, we'll call this one. I'll get that with names right in a minute. Export model as step rather. So there's the part only, the drawing only, and this is a part and assembly function. Let's just quickly link them into the clicks. So file exporting dot export part as DXF. This is export model as step. This is export model as step as well. And this is export drawing as PDF. So that's the whole menu system done over here, the commands, so we can close that. And now we just need to fill these functions out. So yeah, just call it public methods for now. And then we'll have some helper functions for things like getting the file name. So this function is going to be exports the active part to a DXF. And then for this, the first thing we want to do is actually check that it is a part. So make sure it's a part, which is DNA application. DNA.application.active model. Make sure we've got one, and then is part, which will now be a nullable boolean because we might even not have a model. So if the part isn't equal to true, and we have to do that because this isn't a boolean, this is now a nullable boolean in case this is null. So it could be null from this, or it could be true and false from this. So if it's null, it's also false. So you can't just say if it's false because it could be null. So you just have to do it. You basically have to define whether you want it to be equals to true or not equals to true, and that defines the true or false of a nullable boolean. So basically, if the active part is either null or it is not a part because it's not true, then we want to tell the user that effectively somehow they've probably clicked the button before the file's finished opening or something like that. So we just say tell user, again DNA application.show message box. Active model is not a part, and we'll specify the icon as a stop, like an exclamation, and then just return. So that's a check to make sure it's a part. If we know it's a part, we'll now want to get the location where the user wants to save it. So we'll do location equals get save location, and we will need to give it, I guess, a title of what the a filter for what they're looking for first in the save dialog box. So we'll call this DXF flat pattern, and this is a filter. Basically you do an or and then a star and then your extension. So this will be the title. You'll see it when you go to like file save as in any sort of Windows. So if we did like this, file save as, this drop down here, like this text files is the first part there, and then once you do the or, the star dot is the bit afterwards, the extension. So it's just a way that you define these. So title first, then an or, then a star, and then your extension. So we want to filter to DXF files, and we will have a title for it as well. So save part as DXF. We need to create that function, control dot and enter. We'll create as a function that's kind of close. Put it into the private helpers. Ask the user for a save location of a file. This is going to be what will we call this one? I guess the the filter this is, and this is the title. So we copy them in. And then the filter is filter for the save dialog, and the title of the save dialog, and we'll be returning a string. We want to return the path that the user selects if they select one. So we just want to create a dialog, which is super easy. Dialog is new save file dialog, and control dot to find your namespace. The filter is the filter, title is the title, and then you want to automatically add the extension if the user doesn't type it. So if they don't type .dxf or .pdf, you want to add it automatically. You want to now ask the user to specify a folder. So we'll get the dialog result. If the dialog.show dialog is true, so if they didn't click cancel, then we know we've got a value. You can return whatever they selected, which is stored in the file name. Otherwise, we just return false. Well, not false, rather null. So they didn't select anything. So we now know if they select something, we'll get this file name. Otherwise, we'll get null. So let's just put a breakpoint here and check this works so far. So just press F5 to run SolidWorks, and then when we click the DXF button, that should call this action, check it's a part, and then it should ask for a save location. So if we just open a part up, and then we click DXF, you can see we've now got a pop-up. If I type test and don't put DXF, and you can see there's the extension, the filter. Click save, and the location is D home desktop and the name, so that's working. So it could be null as well if we click cancel, so we need to handle if we actually selected that. So ask user for location, and then if string dot is null or empty, location, return because the user clicked cancel, so we do nothing. check if user clicked cancel. And so now if they didn't click cancel, we need to export the file. So DXF, right, so to do a DXF, this is also the benefit of DNA. If I haven't done anything, or if the community hasn't added anything, so we go to the active model, which we know is a part, so we can cast it to a part. Well, this is already native, but say you've got the active model and this is a DNA model, and you wanted to get something on the model doc2, you can just type unsafe object, and that gets you the raw underlying SolidWorks file, and then you can do whatever you want with any features that I haven't implemented yet in DNA. So it's perfectly fine to do that, but just bear in mind it's unsafe, that anything you start doing in here, getting COM objects, you need to maintain and release yourself. So we'll see that in a minute, but I forgot this one. Because we're doing an as part, we're casting it to a native part doc anyway. And on that part we've got export flat pattern view, because that's what we're doing with DXFs, the location that we selected, and then in the options we will do, it needs to be an integer, and I believe it's the SolidWorks export flat pattern view options E. And again, I'll probably add this to, well, I will add this to DNA eventually, so this is, instead of typing all this and doing the native stuff, it'll be a nice DNA function just called active model dot save part as flat pattern or something. It'll be a, you know, I could put this into a function, but for quickness I'll just do it natively. We'll remove the bend lines, and that's it. So we export that, and I believe that'll basically return a true or false. So we can then say if that succeeded, tell the user we succeeded. So DNA.application dot show message box successfully save part as DXF. Otherwise we didn't. So change it to a stop icon. And failed to save part as DXF. Press F5 and let's see if that works. And again, this is, it couldn't be any easier. Doing the export's actually a really simple thing. You can obviously expand this as much as you like. The main point of this was to show you how easy it was to make the command groups. So now we've got a DXF button, we click that, do test. Oh, and then this is the other thing I forgot to say as well. It seems to be a bug in SolidWorks the minute, it's on the forums as well. If you get this command interface bug, basically it's if you've not opened a drawing yet, then SolidWorks is not loading the references into memory. I did a workaround on the forum to load all the references into memory, but it's trying to find WPF resource files that don't exist in the install folder, so they must get loaded a different way that nobody knows about. So for now, if you get this error, which I seem to be getting and quite a lot of people on the forum do, just restart that and just make sure that you, for now, just at least open a drawing or create a drawing when you first, you know, you're using SolidWorks for the first time it's spun up. Otherwise you get this error where something that's needed in obviously these commands, it'll be needed to reference some actions, they won't be loaded. So now we've done that, that's it, they're loaded. So we can just now open up a sheet metal part and click the button again, and hopefully SolidWorks will fix that bug or give us a workaround. Type test again, and then let's see if this works. And there we go, successfully saved part as DXF. Let's go to my desktop. There's the DXF. Let's take a look at this DXF. And there's the flat pattern of the part. So that's working. That's the DXF done. Let's do the step one next. So this is like a universal one for the assembly and part. Copy and paste that for the most part. Part or assembly, because we can do it for both. So it's not a part and it's not an assembly. Then let the user know. Otherwise return. Go on to step file. It's .step, save model this time as step. Check if they click cancel on the location. If they didn't, then we want to do the actual function now to export. So we need a error integer, a warning integer, and then we want to save as a specific version. So version is, and again I'll just use the native ones for now. SolidWorks save as version, and we just want to do the current version, just as the standard save option. Options for the save, we'll do a few by default. These are just what I know as the ones that seem to work universal for everything. This is from you know, making batch process years ago. This is just all knowledge I've still got. So the options we'll have is we want to copy. We also want to have silent. We don't want it popping up and asking the user things. We've already gathered the information we need. We want to update any inactive views on drawings as well. And they're the three sort of best options to have. So created those options. And now we can do DNA.application.active model. And then this is where we're now going to use the unsafe, because we've got the extension, but in the extension I haven't yet done the save as. There's basically nothing in the extension yet other than the custom property editor. So just drop down to unsafe to get to the native SolidWorks variable of that, and then we can just do save as. Once the location, which we've got, which they're calling it name, but that's save location, so weird thing to do. Version is the version we've got there. Options are the options we've done. Export data for this is null. We'll come to that with the PDF. And then if it succeeded or not, we'll get an integer of the error in that reference of the error. So save model as step. And now we just change the success check to a if the errors isn't equal to null, basically, because null is not null, error, 0 is success. So basically if error isn't equal to 0, it's failed. So I noticed a typo there, failed. So if it's that, it's failed. Got these the wrong way around now. Failed to save model as step. Successfully saved model as step. And that's it. So I think that should work. We can also enhance. In fact, let's move. Or do we move that out? Yeah, we'll move this to a helper function, because this is actually a lot more universal than just this one step file. You pretty much just call save as for almost all files. So let's take, other than the location, take all this and let's move this into a helper function. And well, that little bit there seems a bit small at the minute, but we'll take that. Make it a private helper. We don't want others calling this directly. If it succeeded or not, save model as. We want the location to save, and the export data is the only real variable there. Paste this in, all that stays the same. The location's already the right name, the version and options we've got. Pass in the export data, and then just return if the error is 0, it succeeded. Return success result. So save model as, and then whatever is defined in the extension is what it does. So attempts to save a model as a different format. Absolute path to save the model, the export data if any, which actually by default will do as null. So that's just going to try and save the file. And then there's actually another way, I think, as well, I remember. So if this fails, So let's do one more check. If this fails, try one other way. So if errors isn't equal to 0, then I believe the other way is DNA application active model, and then it's on the model itself. So it's unsafe again on the model. It's called save as, yeah, just save as, isn't it? On the actual model instead of the extension. So we'll use 4. We'll do the location, the version, the options, ref for the error, ref for the warning. This basically just doesn't accept the export data, and it's a slightly different way. This is apparently, I think, the newer one if I remember, and this was the up-to-date old one. But sometimes that fails if I remember rightly, whereas this would work. It's you know what SolidWorks is like. So all we do, if that fails, then we just try this, and then the result of this will be the result returned as well. So it's sort of a double attempt at saving a file. So that's the helper done there for saving a model as. So now we just need to do, instead of if error is that, we just want to do if save model as location. So if it's not successful, so if we don't save as, then it's failed, otherwise it's true. So let's try that. That was a bit of work, but just mainly cleaning up and making a helper function so it's easy for the next function we make. So now we've got the, I think we did, actually this will work for both now. We've got the, we should be able to do the part as a step file, and also the assembly is already linked in with that call. So we click step on this, just call it part, and it'll do part.step. Successful. Let's have a look at that. Drag the step in, and there's the part as a step file. Let's open up the assembly, and now we click this, it'll run the exact same function. I'll call this assembly, and that's worked as well. Let's check that's actually worked. I keep closing down this e-drawings, should leave it open. Have a look at the assembly one, and there's the assembly as well. So that's the step done. So the last thing now is just to do the drawing, which is the PDF. So we haven't commented this either. What did we call the other one? Exports the currently active model as a step. And you'll find, if you want to expand on this, that actually there's very few options that change between exporting of all types. You simply pass the file name into save model as. The odd thing you need is export data. So you could almost do this as a universal function in itself that just accepts this. The whole function can, and then it can just run and save a file as a specific type. So we'll show you exporting a drawing, because that does need export data, so you can at least see how you do export data. Exports the currently active drawing as a PDF. We'll start with, again, being a little bit lazy with copy and pasting. We can probably share some of this data, like I say, but it's mainly just for demoing purposes to show you how it's done. You can expand on this as much as you like. Make sure it's a drawing. Oops. If it isn't equal to true, active model is not a drawing. Oops. Then we can get this to fire if we use the menu at the top, the drop down tools in SolidWorks. So we can click the action, run the action when we're not meant to, and we should see that this will warn us. Ask the user for the location for a PDF file. Save drawing as PDF. Check they didn't click that, and now it's not save model as, because this is, well, actually it does save model as, we just need to create the export data. So do export data equals, I think it's export PDF data. Yep, so it's export PDF data as the type. We can get that from the it's the application itself. So I'll have to drop down to the unsafe application, get export data, export file data. It's expecting a file type then, which is export. Oh, there we go. Export data file type, and it's a PDF, the only option. And that's it. So it's going to get the export. It's basically going to create a new export data object from just telling SolidWorks to create as the class, if you will. And now we need to set the export data. You can have a look at what's on there now. And you've got options to get sheets, set sheets, view PDF after saving, export as 3D. For now, we're just going to export the sheets of the drawing. So we just want to export sheets, set sheets, and that will be a string array. I think there's an overload for that. Oh no, sorry, which is the variable first, which is again export data sheets to export. Oh, we can just do all sheets, can't we? We're gonna say you can. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll do specified sheets so that you can see how to, if you wanted to filter the results. So we just want to do var sheet names equals so string array DNA.application.activeModel as drawing, get sheet names, and that'll get you all the sheet names. And then what you could do, if you wanted to filter them, if they were only, say, starting with the letter A, you only want to export sheets beginning with the letter A, you can just do sheets is, and then you actually want a, make this easier to query, you do a new list of string, which is just passed in as a string array. And then what you could do is sheet names equals sheet names dot where sheet name, and then you could do, say, sheet name dot starts with A, and if you wanted to be case insensitive, you could do that, and that could be dot to list. So this would only export sheets starting with A, and then this would now be passing in those sheet names as an array. So that's your export data, and then you'd pass that into the save model as. So for now, we will just comment out that, so we export everything. Failed to save drawing as PDF. Successfully saved drawing as PDF. So we can run that and try it, and then we'll just test out this filter. And again, all you gotta do is pass a array of strings of the names of the sheets that you want to export. So you don't just have to do this little lambda. You can do any kind of filter that you like. You could literally just add them manually, read them, and say if it matches this, that, the other, add them. This is just again an example. Let's open this drawing. I just made a drawing of the assembly with just two names for now, two sheets. So let's just go. You can see we've got the export drawing, got a PDF. Click that. Call it drawing. And successfully saved. Let's have a look. There's the drawing. And there's the two sheets with the views on. So that's worked. So let's just quickly test our filter. They were called sheet 1 and sheet 2. So I'm going to just change this to say contains. And contains, say, 1. What's wrong with that? Oh, wants a character. Oh no, it doesn't. It wants a string or a character. Oh, there's no case sensitive on contains, which is fine for now. This is just again a quick example. So now we should only export sheets starting with, well, not starting with, containing. Oops. containing 1. So let's just run that again, and you should see now we should only export sheet 1. Open up a drawing. Click the PDF. Drawing 1 we'll call this. Let's see if it does. Soon see if it's obeyed what we've told it. Didn't look like it. Oh, there we go, yep. So it's only exported sheet 1. So you can see there's a few examples of exporting data in drawings, assemblies, parts. Say we've got this drawing open. I mentioned you've got all these all the time in the menu. Well, we've left them there for now. Let's try and export this part as a DXF. You can see it's telling us active model is not a part. That's our code telling us that. So that's really all there is to it. You've now got your command bar. You've got your, well, this is a command tab. So if you want to do SolidWorks native code, it's like I said, it's quite messy. You start with a command manager, which is sort of the overall manager that handles everything. Then you create a group, which again is really nothing specific. It's you've grouped your information. The group, I believe, effectively makes toolbars and menu items. So it makes these toolbars and menu items. The group is this. So when you group it, you'll get a toolbar with a name that you can't see because it's short, but this would say the name, and it creates the menus. You can set the command to have a group or a menu in the actual create commands. If you just step into the code, well, actually it's yeah, it activates by default. So we do the create. So this is like a quick helper function that I've made for default options, but you could just do this yourself, and I can also expand this easily so that you could change the options of the command group, and you'll see you've got things like where are we? Has menu and has toolbar. So you can turn off the menu and toolbar for specific groups, and then from that group you can then create, well, not really from the group, you can basically create these tabs and add command items, and they can be inside of any of these groups. So these are really sort of independent. These command tabs are sort of separated from groups, but again, for simplicity in SolidDNA, I've kept them together. There was also a few questions on if one add-ins created this tab. I believe it might just not be the tab, it might they want to be in the actual group. But if you want to multiple add-ins to add to the same tab, I'm pretty sure, because I've just made this, that it's quite easy. It's a simple case of just passing the exact same name. So if you pass export drawing in one add-in as the title to your command group, and you pass that exact same title into the other group, that you can then add things to it. I haven't bothered testing that yet. I'll try and get around to that now I've done this tutorial. But yeah, that's all there really is to creating the command groups now. So it's nice and simple inside of SolidDNA. It's a hell of a lot of work inside of SolidWorks. So your entire add-in now is this to make your menus, so 120 lines, and then another 160 to do all the file exporting that we've done in this example. So you can see how nice and easy that is. Again, this is just the very beginning. If you have any questions of can I do it this way, can I change this, just simply either comment in here or post an issue on GitHub where the source code to all this is. It can always be expanded. I've just made the initial function to do the what we want it to do initially, which is create everything and then at least hide and show buttons on certain types. So hopefully this was useful. Again, any comments, either GitHub, the SolidWorks forums, or this video. So hopefully that was useful.